Hello, and welcome to another Win Daily Sports Show. My name is Michael Raziel. I am back, better than ever. I got my man Ncaa. I got my man Joel Schreck here with me, and we are breaking down the Honda Classic. We were trying to do this one on site. I applied for media credentials. I did the whole thing, jumped through as many hoops as I could. Unfortunately, we were not given those media credentials. So you know what? I'm going to do this from my basement, as I always do, with a blanket wrapped around the bottom half of me because it's freaking cold here in New Jersey. See ya.
So
Wait. Is Ryan Fitzpatrick the best quarterback in the NFC East?
Well, okay. So by process of elimination, I think the answer, if you take his experience in mind, I think the answer is yes. And I think the only argument would be, well, you know, Dak Prescott has flashed for a few years, but he's also coming off a pretty horrific ankle injury.
Mm-hmm.
And we know whether it's Carson Wentz or dating back to RG3 in the NFC East, those quarterbacks coming off injuries like that, it takes a couple of years, and sometimes you lose it altogether. So
wow.
I'm going to answer your question in the affirmative.
I think I'm going to agree. Joel, what do you think?
Listen, I love Ryan Fitzpatrick. I actually watched him play in college because he used to play against my brother.
So nice flex there. By the way, if you guys didn't know, Phil's brother went to an Ivy League school. Not sure if you guys put two and two together there, but that's kind of cool.
I hope he's listening because he would love that. So I want to say yes, but it's just no. It's just not. I like him. He's good, but he's not the best quarterback.
But who is, though?
He's at least second then.
Dak is clearly number one. And then, hey, listen, in all reality, if you were the GM of a football team and you had the choice between Ryan Fitzpatrick and Jalen Hurts next year, you'd take Jalen Hurts.
Well, if you're talking about
disagree.
if you're talking about this coming year, the answer is the opposite of that. If you're talking about for the trajectory of their career, of course you'd take Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts got figured out by the Cowboys defense. The Cowboys defense.
Yikes.
What does that tell you about the playbook of Jalen Hurts?
I mean, listen, what did Ryan Fitzpatrick do as a rookie in the NFL?
I think he beat the Patriots.
Yeah, but what you're doing there is like Deshaun Watson versus Tua.
Anyway, this wasn't the.
But Tua, we don't know where he's at. We don't know but we know what Deshaun Watson is, just like we know what Ryan Fitzpatrick is. We don't know what Jalen Hurts is. I suspect Jalen Hurts isn't going to be a very good quarterback. But
me neither.
Give me Fitz next year. But
anyway, you got Fitz next year, Sia. If anybody hasn't figured out by now, Ryan Fitzpatrick is the starting quarterback of the Washington football team. I hope they keep that name too. We haven't really heard anything in terms of names, so that's kind of cool. But I do promise you this is a golf show. Sia is just our resident Washington Football Club fan, so we had to get there. But guys, we got the Honda Classic coming up. We had a fun one last week. We are back at it. I think they add a Bryson rule this week, if I'm not mistaken. Was that last week?
You're a week behind. Yeah,
I am a week behind. How did you know? Look at that. Perfect. All right. Well, hey, I don't really care. I missed last week. I didn't really pay attention. None of my bets landed. And Doug Gim. We went on a Twitter little thing by that. But anyway, we have the Honda Classic. We have a fun one. Sia, talk to me. What are you most excited about for the Honda Classic? Because we can't be there this year.
Yeah, I mean, I might still show up.
I was actually going to say, you can go there, right?
It's literally 45 minutes up the road. But I think what I'm most excited about is it's such a flat field from a talent standpoint that, like, I think guys like us might have an edge, or frankly, our subscribers or maybe subscribers to another site that may or may not be as good as us. Like, there's an edge there when you have these mediocre players in the 8,000 range, in the 7,000 range, in the high 6K range. So I think this could be a really good tournament. The only problem is it's going to play a little bit like last week. And what I mean by that is it's going to be really difficult. And some of those guys are expecting to make the cut because there's water everywhere and because a couple bad shots can really kill your tournament. You know, you might just be out of luck. You know, you might pick a safe lineup and then you find out it's not so safe like last week, for example. So it's kind of one of those things where, I think we have an edge, but at the same time, like, things could go haywire pretty quick.
It was fun watching all those balls go in the water last week. That was last week, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Because that was an absolute blast. I had a lot of fun with that one. Joel, how about you? What are you excited about? Are you going to just fly down and hang out on Sia's couch?
You know, I thought about it. It's a little too late, so I'm not going to. But I am disappointed that we're not going to be able to go.
Me
down
too.
There. But no, for this week, I'm really excited for the tournament. I think, one thing I was talking about with my wife earlier was I was explaining to her that tournaments like this are good for people like us, people listening to our show, because when tournaments like last week happen where everyone's playing and all the big players are in it, right? Even though we did like Justin Thomas, and I put a ticket on him on Saturday night and like so all that, but still, it's really hard to be able to pick which golfer is going to win when the top 20 golfers in the world are playing, right? They're all really good. None of them, it's hard to say, oh, this guy is definitely better than that guy on this course. Like, this is just all really good players. On a week like this, we can really get more technical and be able to say, listen, like, these guys grade out way better than the other guys, and they're not the best golfers in the world, so there's a lot more. There should be a bigger gap when picking guys this week. So that's what makes me excited.
Yeah, Justin Thomas went absolutely ballistic last week on the weekend. That was absolutely fun to watch. Shout out to him for taking it down, taking it home, making, I don't know, $1 million. Not a bad day to say the least.
I think he made like 2.7 million. It was the
Holy
purse
shit.
because it was the players.
Oh, because it was the players.
Yeah.
That
I
makes
think I read it was the biggest purse for an individual winner ever.
Wow.
Okay.
That's cool. And we got the Masters coming up soon, boys. Pretty excited about that. Georgia's on my mind again. It was only like, 5 months ago? We get to do it again. Kind of weird, but I'll take it. So let's get into it a little bit. It should be a fun one. We're down in Florida. Daniel Berger has the best odds to win. But before we even hop into that, Sia, I saw something in Discord today, if I'm not mistaken, about Daniel Berger. So let's just get that information out there now to the people in case they only want to listen to the first 10, 15 minutes of the show.
Yeah, so I put it in Discord this morning. So it popped up on RotoWorld, not a ton of other outlets, but it seems like it's on very, very good information that Daniel Berger has had a rib injury that he's been battling for, quite some time. I mean, at least more than a couple weeks. And he was even quoted as saying, I mean, this is a quote from him that was in RotoWorld saying, or on RotoWorld, which is not called RotoWorld anymore, NBC.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, the short of it is he kind of said, well, I'm surprised I even got through 4 rounds, which was like pretty shocking to me for a couple reasons, because is it really that severe? Like that, if it was, why would you even play in the players anyway? I mean, obviously it's a huge purse, but I should note round 4 for Daniel Berger was amazing. It was his best round. So it's kind of one of those things where it clearly wasn't a hindrance as the tournament went on. If anything, it must have felt better as the tournament went on. But one thing that you should also know is that he had an MRI on Monday, or at least, again, that's what was reported. So I would imagine the results of that, he's going to get questions about that at the, the pre-tourney press conference tomorrow. So he's going to have to respond to that. I mean, honestly, like I assume he's going to be okay, and I assume he's going to play. I assume this news is going to get some people off of him and maybe on like Joaquim Neiman or Sung J M, maybe even Adam Scott. But it's one of those things we kind of just have to gauge it and see what happens. I'm still going to have plenty of Berger shares as of now, but I got to admit, I'm pulling a few shares off of him at the moment.
Interesting. Joel, is that shying you away, or are you excited to load up on Daniel Berger now?
Well, I don't know if you guys remember this. I have some inside information here that I can share with you.
Oh, so that's right.
I don't remember that.
Daniel Berger's dad is the tennis pro at my Palace golf community, which happens to be literally less than a mile down the road from the Honda Classic. So I don't know him, and my parents I'll talk to. Like, I don't actually know if he's going to play, but what I do know is this is his home field. He wants to play, and if he could play last week, and if he's healthy enough, he's going to play. So he wants to be out there. It's really, if he can't play, it's because he really can't. And if he got through last week, I think he should be able to get playing this week. So I think he's probably going to play, and it means something to him, right? Because this is his home course. This is where his family is. So I like Berger, and I like the fact that this might scare some people off of him.
Sia, can you drive to Joel's parents' house, find out where Daniel Berger's parents live, and just ask them to call him up? Just a quick phone call.
That's the thing. All I'm asking. I feel like we can take the quicker route here. So his dad is the tennis pro. Does he give your parents lessons? Like, how does that work? What's the dynamic, the relationship?
No, I actually don't know if they actually ever spoke to him or not. But
you have insider information.
I just know that he works at that community. I know that for sure.
Okay.
Well, I think what we need to do here is have your parents call for like lessons. And honestly, like maybe we'll front the money on whatever like a lesson costs with Mr. Berger, and then we can while they're setting up the lesson, hey, I heard your son, may not play, and it'll be like, oh no, he's fine, and that's worth the
Good
lesson
enough.
right there.
That's actually a good idea. You're just gonna have to make sure that lesson happens tomorrow.
Yeah.
Very tight time frame.
Well, the inquiry has to happen tomorrow, not the lesson itself.
Okay. All right.
All right. I love it.
We'll
And
work on that.
that's what you get at the Win Daily Sports Show. This is what you get. Let's get into it a little bit. This should be a fun one. As Joel and Cia both said, these are the types of tournaments that we make our money for you. We're a little bit better at this. And by we, I mean Cia and Joel. Each of them won bets and they win DFS and yada, 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 yada. I kind of just tail them and it's been working so far. So again, Cia's probably going to give out some winners later. Just take them because it works. This top tier, I mean, we know all these guys, but some of them in the 10K range is interesting. Sanjay at 11, Berger obviously at 10.8, Lee Westwood at 10.6, Joaquim Neiman 10.4, Adam Scott 10.1. Cia, talk to me a little bit about this top tier of golfers.
Yeah, and before I get to that, I got to say, sure. So you know how we give the outrights and we give the first round leaders at the end of this show every Tuesday. And it's sort of sucks because I hit Sergio Garcia last week, but he wasn't one of my picks on the show. And the reason was, and this is kind of like for anybody listening right now or on the podcast later, this is why it's so important to be in Discord, because it was Stephen Pillardi who was just talking about Sergio, and then Patrick started talking about him. And then at 12 o'clock Wednesday night, I end up putting up $10 on an 80-1 shot Sergio Garcia as first round leader. So it was one of the first times I even made a first round leader bet outside the scope of what I say on my show. And so it ended up hitting somehow. And I kind of felt bad because, I was on John's show as well on Wednesday night. I gave him first round leaders, but I didn't give him Sergio either. And so here I am celebrating it on Thursday night. And they're like, dude, what's going on? But again, it was all in Discord. Like if you were in the chat in Discord, you would have put 2 and 2 together and been like, I need Sergio on my teams, and maybe he's a good outright or first round leader bet. So that's again, that's a promotion for Discord. You really have to get in there to get everything.
Hand up. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little peeved. I was like, you mean I could have hit an 8? So. I would have put $1 on that. That would have been a nice $80 in my account. I could have made like 80 more golf bets with that, but it's okay. You've made me enough money. I can't get angry at this stuff. I'm just, when I saw that, I was like, son of a bitch. That's really all I said to myself.
I'll tell you this, and then we'll finally get into this upper tier range. I literally put that bet in at like 11:45 p.m. Wednesday night. You would have been in bed, and times I believe were like 6:50 or something.
I wouldn't
like
have gotten it in.
So but it's just one of those things. I could have texted Joel though.
Yeah, he would have been up.
Joel doesn't need an 80-1 shot. He's hitting, what was that?
Well, he would have put $100 on it. So.
Well, that's true. That's actually a good point. So, but he just hit a bet of $26. He turned it into $39,000. So that's ridiculous.
Not bad. Expect more of that, Joel. But anyway, also the group chat was the boys weren't too happy with you either, Cia. But anyway, this top tier of golfer, who are we liking this week?
So there's 2 guys I really like. Actually, there's really just one guy I really like up here. It's Daniel Berger at 10,800. I mean, his ball striking, first of all, if you remember, before we got shut down because of the pandemic, Daniel Berger was like red hot, okay? And then the pandemic happened, and then we came back, and Daniel Berger was okay. Well, he's sort of back on sort of the red hot train now. The last 3 tournaments, his ball striking has been out of this world. Off the tee, approach. That's what you're going to need here, particularly approach. But there's so many water hazards on this course that you're definitely going to want to be precise with your first shot and your second shot in particular. So Daniel Berger, it's like not even a close call to me. I mean, Sungjae Im is the defending champion, but his ball striking lately really hasn't been that good, particularly on approach. And then Lee Westwood, he's been playing really well, but he's finally priced up in a range where, it's a little prohibitive. And honestly, his ownership percentage, I mean, if it was like 5%, that would be one thing. But, people are playing him. So it's not one of those things where it's like super contrarian. The other guy I like here, just because he's such a good ball striker and he has such good win equity relative to the field, is Joaquim Neiman. So I'm going to play a lot of Daniel Berger, but if I have to pivot from Daniel Berger, I'm going to play Joaquim Neiman. But if I'm not worried about the Daniel Berger injury, this split is going to be way in Daniel Berger's favor, like 80-20. It's Daniel Berger's as close to a lock button here for me as you can have, which is why the rib injury really kind of shook me, because I was like, damn, man, I was going to have him in pretty much every lineup.
Yeah, and hopefully Joel's parents can get us that information that we're looking for. Again, windailysports.com/chat, get in Discord, so that way you can find out what Joel's parents said to Daniel Berger's parents over the phone. Joel, anybody else from this top tier range or anything you want to add to what Cia was saying?
I'm pretty in line with Cia in this range. I think the sentiment is these guys, I think, especially Berger, I'll throw him in there as well, and Neiman are just head and shoulders better than the rest of the field, in my opinion. So I'm with Berger. If you want to be scared of his injury, if you want to pivot, I agree. I think it would be Neiman. And then for me, I still like Im. Im did have a 66 round last week. He might have had 2 even, but he had a couple blow up rounds as well. So it's kind of a little bit risky, but he is, other than Berger, definitely the best golfer in this field. And it's going to be a wider margin than most courses. So trying to get one of these guys in your lineup when you're making your builds.
72, 66, 77, 66. That is a wild 4 rounds of golf, and that's why we do what we do. Also, I don't think we hit that bet on balls in the water. I was a little disappointed. We were looking. I don't think it hit. The money didn't hit my account. A little disappointing, but that was fun. You always have to check DraftKings and all those sites, FanDuel. There was some wacky bets last week. Was over 15.5 balls in the water, I think. But it was after the round after Ben On hit like 15 by himself in the water, so it didn't quite help. Joel, let's stick with you. What about this 9K range? It sounds like I'm going with the assumption it's a Stars and Scrubs lineup again today.
No, we're going to the patented hybrid for sure.
The hybrid, of course. How could I have forgot?
I don't know how you forgot that. But no, so this is the range that we're going to want to be in. I think there's a lot of guys that are going to be able to compete in this range. I think the winner, if it's not Berger, will probably come from this range as well. So there's a lot of guys that I like. If you're reading around the internet this week, you'll notice a lot of people love Russell Henley. I think he grades out really well on this course. He's got a really good course history. Tied for 8th last year, 20th, 24th, 43rd. So he's consistently competing here. Listen, he missed the cut last week. His recent form, he had 38th and 30th before that. So it's mediocre. It's not bad. He's competing at a place where he likes the course. I really like Russell Henley this week. My concern with him, this is a high price tag, right? If you're taking Russell Henley, you're taking him as one of your alphas, probably your second guy. If you want to pivot off him for that reason, I think that makes sense, even though I do like him this week as someone that is worth targeting. A lot of people, and Michael, you'll like this, a lot of people are really into Taylor Gooch, and I agree. I think his recent form has really been on the upswing. I mean, 5th last week, he looked great. He was 43rd the week before, which, isn't terrible at a tough event. And then at the Genesis, he was 12th, which is another really tough event, and this should play tough as well. So it looks like he's playing better on difficult courses, which is going to line up well. His recent form looks good. And then his course history, he had 38th last year and 20th year before that. So, I mean, he's making the cut. The thing that it's just hard for everyone to wrap their head around that we all just have to get used to this week is, all of those statistics and everything I said for Taylor Gooch at his normal price is like a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. But at $9,300, now you're picking him he has to be a top 10 in this tournament, which he very well could be. I feel like he's a top 10 golfer, but it is a lot of money to be committed to Taylor Gooch. So.
Yeah, Taylor Gooch was routinely in the low 7s. He was in the 6Ks, over the year that we've been doing this show at this point. Now, all of a sudden, it's a light field, so he gets a little bit more expensive. So shout out Taylor Gooch, though. Good for him. Deserves it.
No, totally. And, the round out, I think, listen, we've been on, and you've been hearing us mention Ncaa for, months now. I mean, we've been all over his ball striking has been elite. I mean, he's been just hitting the ball well. He missed the cut last week, but I don't want to hold that again. I mean, he made a lot of cuts. Last week was a really tough tournament. I'm definitely going back to well. I actually hope that last week turns people off to him, that maybe they're saying, listen, he's on the downswing. I always give a guy 1 week. It's going to happen. It's golf. I'm happily to go back to Ncaa this week. And the last guy I'll mention in this range that I have my eye on is Shane Lowry. Lowry's another guy who was played pretty well. I was like, not great, didn't get too low, but he was pretty consistent, right? I mean, like you don't see a 66, but he didn't really. He had the 174, but for the most part, 268s and a 69 in a tough course is really good. And this should shape up to be a course that he plays well at.
So a couple things. One, Ncaa. If you guys have not already, speaking to everybody out there, make sure to go subscribe to the Better Golf Podcast, where our boys Sticks Picks and Spencer Aguiar break down the tournament from every which way betting, and is absolutely incredible. If you listen to Sticks 2 weeks ago, he had a hammer play on Ncaa, and it worked. If you listened to him last week, it didn't quite work out as well, but it was still a lot of fun while you had it. They made you some money. So make sure to go find that. I'll put it in the show notes for everybody on YouTube and in the podcast. Subscribe there because they do some incredible stuff. We do a lot of the DFS. We give you outrights, of course, over here, but their entire show is just top 40s, top 20s, top 10s, top 5s, matchups. It is so much fun to listen to. Those dudes are so smart. Last week, they even had the gentleman, Dave Bierman from ESPN, who like runs the gambling over there. So that was a lot of fun to get to check out. So if you have not already, do that. And also Shane Lowry is Irish. And do you think St. Patrick's Day will be a hindrance, or do you think it will help? That's just my last question. I don't know. Sia, I'll toss it to you. What do you think?
I mean, Shane Lowry, I believe, is kind of a drinker, so I think that's a hindrance.
Okay.
But that's not stopping a lot of people, because I think Shane Lowry is a popular guy to pick in DFS this week. And it's partly because of what Joel said, and I don't know if Joel mentioned it, but it's going to be pretty windy. It's going to be like 10 to 20, maybe like 20, 25 miles per hour throughout the week and the weekend. So these European players in particular, Shane Lowry, we'll talk about maybe Dylan Fratelli and some of those guys, Ian Poulter, they might really be comfortable in the type of wind we're going to see, whereas some of the American players may not be quite as comfortable unless they're Florida players. The 9K range, not a lot of guys I like. Taylor Gooch and Cameron Tringale are probably the guys I like the most. I'm probably going to fade Henley just because his recent form isn't that good, and he's so popular. He's talked about on all the podcasts, but more importantly, if you're running a model, whether it's 24 rounds or 50 rounds, however far you're going back, I mean, he's really going to a pop because of his approach numbers. And it's one of those things where if his recent form was a little bit better, I'd be like, okay, I'll jump on board with the chalk. But I feel like I have an argument to stray from the chalk. And when I do, that's what I'm going to do almost every time. So give me Gooch, give me Tringale. Like, the cool thing about Tringale is his ball striking is so good. It's always been really good, particularly on approach. But every tournament this calendar year, he's gained in the ball striking department. Like, total strokes gained, ball striking, he's gained in every single tournament dating back to the Amex. So there have been a couple times, like at the API, his approach numbers, he didn't gain there, but he gained so much off the tee that his ball striking number was in the positive. So last week, what really bit him was the putter. I mean, he just wasn't very good with the putter. So that is easily forgiven because of the state of regression when it comes to putters. So a guy like that who you think you can count on from a ball striking standpoint, with all this water around, I'm definitely going to be riding that. I'll tell you about Taylor Gooch. I did talk to Nick Bretwish 2-3 hours ago, who of course is one of the two hosts of the Better Golf podcast, BETTOR. So it's Nick Bretwish, it's Spencer Aguiar. They're really, really kind of brilliant. So this is a must in the rotation, whether you're doing DFS or betting. But the point is, one of the first names, spoiler alert for that show that I think is going to drop tomorrow morning, was Taylor Gooch, just from a pure value standpoint. And I think he was assessing value from a betting market. But I think if he likes the value there, then I think we can justify playing Taylor Gooch at what seems to be an elevated price. So I'm all over Taylor. I'm all over Cameron Tringale. I think I like Cameron a little bit more just because he's a little cheaper, and I've just been on Cameron more than I have been on Taylor, so I'm gonna keep riding that. But other than that, Woodland was a withdrawal. We got Russell Henley. Lowry, I'm not that interested in. His ownership percentage looks to be a little too high. Chris Kirk is fine. I'm kind of waiting for him to have a down tournament because I think he's kind of due for one, but I think he's a fine play.
Just a little information. Taylor Gooch plus 3,500 to win, plus 750 for top 5, plus 400 for a top 10. Again, listen to the BETTOR Better Golf because they dive into the top 40s and all that. And Nick is incredible. He'll be like, yeah, I found this bet here on PointsBet. You can get like 130 points. So this is value. Just take it, whether it's good or not. Just take it because you're getting 130 points better. So it is a lot of fun to listen there. Sia, we'll stick with you. How about this 8K range? Because if you're not in love with the 9K range, I assume there's got to be a couple. Ricky Fowler, Doug Gim. We know all these guys. Talk to me.
Yeah, what's funny about Ricky? So this isn't offered on DraftKings, but there is a bet. It's Keegan Bradley versus Ricky Fowler, and Keegan Bradley's minus 120. And Fowler has been, like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but he's been kind of a joke. Like he had a couple good rounds here and there over the last 6 months, but I'm being literal with a couple good rounds. Like, that's about it. Now, this is his home course, just like Daniel Berger. He's had a lot of success here, including within the last 3-4 years. It's been very, very good. But with all of that said, it's just one of those things where if I can get Keegan Bradley, an amazing ball striker, against Ricky Fowler, I mean, your grandma's favorite,
grandma's
favorite. That seems too good to be true, to be honest with you. So I think that's something I'm going to be doing. Other guys go ahead.
It's my grandma's birthday tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Well, don't send her this clip tomorrow then.
Okay, we'll make sure not to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Good idea. Happy birthday, Grandma.
Happy birthday, Grandma. Can she come on the show? And by the way, before I get to the rest of the 8K, no, she can't.
Can't come on the show. She'll spew off some Facebook conspiracy shit. It's
that is fantastic.
It's wild.
We should do that because we won't own it. It'll be like, oh, that's his grandma. That's everybody's grandma. Like, and then we could like.
I think we put it to a vote. I say she comes on.
Damn it.
Yeah, she's a content machine.
Yeah. She really would be. It would be insane.
Before I get to the other few guys I like in the 8K range, can I ask Joel, what is your brother's name that went to the Ivy League school?
Jarrett Schreck.
Jarrett Schreck. And where did you go to school, Joel?
I went to the University of Delaware.
Okay, so are you like, was it like kind of like a disappointment you didn't go to an Ivy League school?
My brother and sister went to Brown, and I didn't. Yeah. So
well, isn't Brown like the last one though?
Well, yeah, so is that, right? And then my brother and sister are a lawyer and doctor, and only one of us has made a couple $100,000 betting on golf in the
There we go.
That's where I was going with it. That's where I was going with it.
I don't know.
There you go, baby.
Like that degree can only take you so far. But the Brown thing is funny because that's like the worst person on the starting five of the dream team. It's
exactly.
Like, okay.
Yeah. That's always a fun sitcom joke though. Anyway.
So the rest of the guys, I'm going to skip over Doug Gim. I think speaking of guys that might be due for a letdown, I think Doug Gim is probably there as well. He's been so good for a couple weeks. You know, we've been on him too. Like Doug Gim is not a stranger to this show. Even 3-4 months ago, we were talking about him, but he definitely unraveled on Sunday. He was really quite bad. The pressure got to him. I think he admitted that in a presser over the last couple days, but. Long story short, I think that's probably a little bit too much. While I'm willing to pay the elevated price for some of these guys, like Taylor Gooch, for example, I would so much prefer just play Taylor Gooch and find the $500 somewhere else when it comes to DraftKings pricing. I think Brandon Steele, if we're talking about safer plays, he's a really good ball striker. His history here is very good. So I have no problem with Brandon Steele. I think again, there's no such thing as a safe play, but I think if you were going to do like a top 10 safer plays, I think Brandon Steele would make that in this particular tournament.
For 1 second, for Brandon Steele, can you get any more consistent? 72, 72, 71, 71, 71, 72, 71, 72.
Exactly.
That's so boring, but
it's boring. He's probably not going to score a ton of DK points compared to some of the guys next to him. But again, it's really all about your philosophy. While I'm usually chasing upside, in this particular tournament, I'm more inclined to chase cut makers because I think if you can just get past that threshold and start scoring, like we saw it last week, because you could have had like a good 4 out of 6 lineup, but there was enough scoring on Saturday and Sunday, even on a hard course, where you were just going to get past. Even a 5 of 6 lineup was probably going to get hurt pretty bad by any 6 of 6. So that's sort of what I'm looking towards. And that's why I'm not normally on a guy like Brandon Steele, but in this field I will be. The other guy I want to mention, 2 guys, actually. 3 guys. Keegan Bradley I already talked about. Great ball striker. He's been red hot. And the cool thing about Keegan Bradley is he's been red hot with the putter too. And that's usually that's usually like horrible for him. But what I'm seeing, at least on these Florida greens, this Bermuda grass, is that he's comfortable there. Like he is gaining strokes putting. Even if he was a 0 putter with the ball striking, he is going to pay off his price. So I love Keegan Bradley. 2 more guys, Dylan Fratelli. That's more of a hunch play. The stats don't really bear it out. I think he's going to be comfortable in this environment. If you recall, Fratelli way back in the day was one of my secret weapon plays. And I think, again, from South Africa, so he's going to be accustomed to the wind. Again, more of a hunch play, less of a stat riding play. And the last guy is Ben On. I think some people will be off Ben On because he put like 25 balls in the water last week, and it was like kind of hilarious. And that's what people are going to think of when they see his name. But A, he's okay on Bermuda from a putting standpoint. That's usually his downfall. And B, he's a great ball striker. So give me Ben On.
Yeah, that was wild. And then you saw him on Twitter. Actually, last week for Twitter in golf was hysterical.
It was amazing.
I think it was Ian Poulter, right, who sat at the table and he's like, "It's me, Shane Lowry, and Rory, and someone else." And it's like, "We're a combined 25 over right now." It's like, "Happy lunch, everyone." And then there's Ben On just making fun of himself. It's like, tag someone who would put this many balls in the water. And he just tagged himself and retweeted it, which was awesome. So shout out golfers on Twitter, man. They are actually a blast to follow. And we've been tweeting at Harry Higgs a lot. Harry still hasn't come on the pod, so hopefully we can get him soon. Joel.
Harry played well last week.
Yes.
He wasn't great on round 4, but Harry competed last week.
Hey, man, he made the cut, dude. That's all I expected of him at this point. I consider that a win, so let's go. Henry Higgs, come on the show. All right, Joel, talk to me. What about this AK range? Where are you loving?
Yeah, so I'm going back to the Doug Gim well. I think Gim played really well last week. this course should grade out well for how he's striking the ball. I mean, his ball striking has been really good. I think he even mentioned it. There was like an interview after the tournament last week where he kind of said that they asked him like, playing on the spotlight and kind of having all the big names around you, were you nervous? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Wouldn't you be? And I think that kind of played a little bit into his kind of demise in round 4. I don't think he'll be nervous this week. There's no one in the tournament other than maybe Berger and him that are big names. So I think he'll just be feeling comfortable coming off a week where he's playing great. So yeah, I love Doug Gim. I think he's actually one of my favorite plays this week, the way he's striking the ball. And another thing to look at, like I always say, when you look at the card like we're looking at now, look at all the low scores you'll find, the 65, 68, 67. So he's capable of going low. So even if you don't love him for week long, he'll definitely be a showdown target this week as well. I like Steele. I think Cameron Davis is going to be interesting this week. I think our people, he was kind of like a sexy underdog pick in the last 2 tournaments, and he let everyone down. I think people are now done with him. I think the most intriguing thing about him this week is the lack of competition, right? He is now, look at the statistics, an elite golfer opposed to a sleeper. And I think people are going to be off him because of the 2 missed cuts recently. So if he can find some of that form back where he might not be as highly owned, I think that could be a nice way to get different. I really like Keegan Bradley this week. I mean, it's now been a few weeks where we've seen him contributing, right? It's not just like, he had one lucky week. It's been a few weeks where I think even last week it was like, I was thinking to myself, can he really do it again? Is he that consistent? And boom, tied for 29th. He was there. He was pretty consistent, even, closing the week strong. So if you look for the last, since the beginning of February, I mean, he's really been pretty consistent. So I think Keegan Bradley is definitely a good play, someone to go to this week. I'm with Sia on Dylan Fratelli. I will say Fratelli's a my guy in that when there's an opportunity to play him, I will play him. Not necessarily the smartest thing, but he's won me money in the past. Yeah, he's coming off a strong week. I agree that he might do better in the win this week. So I do. I think he's a good play, especially now that we're getting down to 8,200. These are the types of guys that are still, I think, better golfers than the rest of the field, but are ahead, maybe not as big of a gap between him and the guys in the 98, 9,600. So I think there's the value that we're going to get. The last guy in this range I want to just mention is Windham Clark. Windham Clark is, one of the stats for him that pops that's really good for this course is his bogey avoidance. So he grades out really well at avoiding bogeys, and if he can have especially double bogeys, if he can have a week where he gets him stays out of trouble, has one really good round, he'll compete and maybe get you another top 10 like he did at the Genesis.
That's what we're hoping for. We want some top 10s. If these guys in the 8K range can get up there for you, usually a pretty good place to be. Just want to go over some of the odds here. Ricky Fowler, plus 4,500. Cam Davis, Chris Kirk, Brandon Steele, Cameron Tringale, all plus 4,500. Keegan Bradley, plus 5. Doug Gim, plus 6. Windham Clark, plus 6,600. And Fratelli as well, 6,600 to win outright. But Sia and Joel give us outrights later. They'll then not tell us about them and win on their own. Whatever. Anyway, Joel, let's go to this 7K range. Let's do... that's not super... It's long, but go as far as you want and then pass it off to Sia.
Hey, before we go to Joel in the 7K range, there's one guy I kind of forgot. He's not a big play for me, but I think he's a sneaky contrarian play because he's been off everybody's radar for quite some time, and he's a good course fit. His name is Martin Keimer. Okay, so he is... What is his price? It's like 8,200,
83. Got him.
8,300. There you go. He's going to be probably sub 5%. So what's interesting, if you look at stats of him on, the PGA Tour, they're not going to look good. He hasn't played on the PGA Tour much at all. I mean, I think the last time he played might have been the US Open, and he was deplorable. I mean, it's a hard course, so not a course for him. But if you actually look at what he's done on the European Tour, it's not super impressive, but he's actually progressing. So I think he had a tied 44 in February, and then the tournament after that, he had a T18 at the Saudi International, and you might be like, well, who was at the Saudi International? And it was a completely stacked field. DJ was there. They had everybody there. I believe Rory played there, Bryson played there, and by the way, Bryson was also tied for 18th. So Martin Keimer seemed to be a guy that's like kind of like picking his spots, and he comes to this tournament with a pretty terrible field, and he's coming off playing well in a crowded field at the Saudi International, and it just seems like a play, again, a European player who will be good with the wind. He's not a super long hitter, so he's fine on this course because it's relatively short. So he kind of checks a lot of boxes, but I don't think anybody's really going to pay attention to him. So as far as the 8K range, a super contrarian play, I think he's pretty smart.
How cool would it be if you could just like take a month off every once in a while? Just like go home, hang out, practice a little bit, and just be like, oh, this one looks like fun. I think I could win this. Let's go there. Joel, you stuck your hand up. Was that something you wanted to say?
Did I? No.
Oh, never mind. I guess not. Anyway, Joel, we were going to you anyway, so let's talk about the 7K range a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So, I just think there's a lot better value in the 8K range. So my personal builds are going to be trying to cram in those guys. But a few guys here that I will be targeting that I like this week. I'm going to start with an interesting one a name that we've never mentioned on this show. His name is Brandon Wu. So Brandon Wu is going to come in the ilk of a Will Zalatoris. He's a young and up-and-coming guy. He did really well on the Corn Ferry Tour. He's a little bit new to the PGA Tour, but look at his recent history. I mean, these aren't all PGA events, so keep that in mind. We're the greatest salt. Even the Puerto Rico Open, which was a PGA event, had a really kind of C-cast, so it was kind of like a minor league game. But he's really good, and that's the point. And if you're someone that likes playing Will Zalatoris, he's going to grade up really well in ball striking and things like that. There's a reason there's a guy that few of us have ever heard of, is priced almost at $8,000, right? Because he's good. So it's just a matter of, I think this is the type of place where it's okay to get different and play a guy like him because he doesn't have to go up against Thomas and DeChambeau, and all those guys are gone. Whereas if he has a hot week, right, it wouldn't be surprising if he beats, Daniel Berger. Yeah, that would be surprising. But anyone other than him in this field, right?
Ricky Fowler.
He can give you a Ricky Fowler, exactly. So Keegan Bradley, whatever. So I actually think he's a nice way if you want to be different, especially in some big GPPs, to some of the target. And he's definitely going to be under 10% on I would imagine.
Yeah. I was about to ask Sia if you have it in front of you, or Joel, if you had his ownership. I'm curious because I can't see it being very high if he's played one tournament and it was the other tournament that week, right? The Puerto Rico Open was the same week. I can't remember if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't the API's one before that, right? Where everybody else was paying attention, but the Puerto Rico Open was on. So I can't see his ownership being too high.
Yeah, it's a little higher than you think because he is being talked about, and he's a name that people are familiar with, even back to when the pandemic hit and we were only doing Outlaw Tour. Like Brandon Wu was one of those guys when I was like studying up and trying to put in DraftKings lineups. It was like, oh, this is an up and coming guy. But to your point, it's looking like he's going to be like 5 to 7%. So it's not like he's some huge chalky guy, but you'd almost expect a guy that nobody really knows that's priced at 7,800. You'd almost expect it to be like 2%. So whatever, it's double, triple that. Not a big deal. But he's definitely popular, and he's popular for good reasons, and it's pretty much all the reasons Joel just mentioned.
Man, I missed the Outlaw Tour. I'm not gonna lie, guys. That was wild. Who else you got here, Joel?
Yeah, so I think to round out this field, another interesting play is Adam Hadwin. Hadwin looked good last week. He's coming around strong. I mean, if you look, it's key. His first round was not that good, but when he got comfortable with the course, I mean, he kept everything above a 71, which in difficult courses is going to be really important. Again, this could be another tough course. So, I think he's more of a consistent golfer. He could have been interchanged in the 8K range. So I think you're getting a nice value with him here. I like Harold Varner. I think Varner's going to grade out really well, especially as a guy who is capable of scoring low. So if he gets hot this week, it gets you one of those, 67, 66s, he can really compete for this tournament. So, I don't love him. He hasn't been consistent, but again, don't put too much into his recent form in that if you only put the names that are in this tournament for what place he would have gotten in those tournaments, it'd be 20, 40, 30 places higher. So he's not competing against the same guys. In a field like this, he is one of the top 30 guys, I would say at least. So definitely someone that we can target. And then I'll stop kind of at the 7,500 range. So the last two I want to just kind of bring up are Luke List. Luke List's recent form is not great, so people might be turned off for him for that. But he's done well here, so he likes this course. He missed the cut the last 2 years. He had second in 2018. He has a 10th in 2016. So playing Luke List is a GPP play, hoping he finds his form this week. But if he does, he certainly can compete. And we're going back to the last play with Cage Lee. I know we were really on him, maybe 3 tournaments ago. We've cooled off, but he made the cut last week. He was pretty consistent. He didn't have any blow up days, and on a tough course, that's going to be really important. Making sure that guys stay consistent, especially this week, because someone plays really consistent this week and one good day they can win the tournament. So I think KH will be another interesting play.
I love it. KH Lee, I missed him in his haircut. Sia, how about you? This top half of the 7K range.
Yeah, KH Lee, that's an interesting play. I hadn't looked at him yet. I agree with Joel. There's not a lot that I love here, so I'm probably going to be disproportionately high on the guys that I'm mentioning, just because I don't like much of anything else. Kevin Streelman, really good ball striker, really good off the tee, really good on approach, and kind of a shorter hitter. So he actually suits this course quite well. I like him. I'm considering Michael Thompson and Luke List. As far as Luke List is concerned, yeah, he has been sort of underwhelming lately. But, I think he's probably worth a couple shares. The thing that scares me about HV3, not to be confused for
RG3,
which, by the way, is he going to get signed? Like, is anybody going to at least bring him into camp? Like, that's got to happen, right? I mean, not during free agency. I'm saying, like, when your rosters are like expanded, like, I would think he'd get a shot.
See ya.
I don't know.
We know what you're saying, and we're clearly not answering.
Redskins might be looking for a little competition.
Hey, whoa. Washington Football Club, Joel. Come on.
Yeah, you're right. That's right.
That's right.
Killing me, man. I have to go back and edit this whole podcast now. Jesus.
I think we can leave it. We've scolded him appropriately.
Okay. It's okay.
So let's move on. So a couple other guys. I'm going to skip over a bunch of guys because, again, these are guys I don't like. Matt Jones is interesting. If you're talking about safer options, I think Matt Jones, if you're talking about this range, 7,400, he makes some sense. Again, he's from Australia. He's going to be okay in these wind conditions. And he's just kind of like average to above average in all the strokes gained metrics. And I think that's going to go ahead.
I have a question. So everybody that's not from the United States so far, you've said, is good in wind. Is that just how it works? Like, if you're international, you're better at wind? Because, like, Europe, South Africa, and Australia so far, and that's, like, most of the world at this point.
Yeah, and actually, the answer to that is yes, but it's not like a categorical, like, across the board yes. But the bigger point is they are so accustomed to playing in wind that it's not going to throw them off to see, like, 20 to 25 mile per hour gust. It's not necessarily that they grade out really well in wind, because I actually haven't looked at those stats for those particular
Not
players,
even that. I mean, more like, do we just not play with wind here in the United States? Or is it just that much more wind around the rest of the world?
It's that much more wind around the rest of the world. I mean, unless you're on the coast, you're probably not. I mean, there's wind in, some Texas courses, California, Florida, but generally speaking, more often than not, I mean, we've been doing this for probably a year and a half. Like, wind is a factor. It feels like 1 out of every 4 or 5 events where we're like, oh, we got to think about wind here. Whereas I think on the European Tour, for example, you're looking at like pretty much every other tournament, like you're dealing with some wind that might be like whipping around, like even harder than what you might see at like 10, 15 miles per hour. All of a sudden our radars go up. Over in Europe, it's like, oh, it's a light day. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. So, just wanted to make sure, because I'm curious where else they play with wind around the world, but because it's everywhere. Anyway, sorry.
So 2 other guys that I want to mention, and then I'll move on. James Hahn at 7,300. I mean, I just like him. I just think he has upside. And, sometimes he strikes the ball well, sometimes he doesn't. And that's what you're going to get in this range with this type of field. So James Hahn with the upside. And then Rory Sabatini, kind of like a boring guy. We always refer to him, or at least I do, as the good Rory, because he kind of bears that out. But long story short, in this field, I think Rory Sabatini has an opportunity here to actually like do pretty well. So I have no issue paying 7,200 for Rory Sabatini.
For the other Rory. Joel, are you going to take that?
Listen, I have to agree, because you know me, I always feel like you need shares of a Rory in your tournament. Since now this is my only option, I got to put some shares in there because they're going to have the Rory.
I like that. I like that. That is the breakdown you get here at Win Daily Sports People. You need a Rory somewhere in your life.
But there is a big but. I'm surprised that Sia didn't mention this person. Now, his recent form has been disappointing, but he is a show favorite. Our guy, Henrik Norlander, right? In this field, Norlander can really do some damage. Like, I like it. Now, he was terrible at the Players. Just terrible, atrocious. People are going to be off of him for that. He was pretty bad at the Arnold Palmer. He missed the cut at the Genesis, but I wouldn't put it at atrocious. Just a missed cut. Didn't score all that well. And then right before that, he had that run of like 3 tournaments where he had top 30s and he was looking really good. We were picking him to win tournaments and things like that. That's not that long ago. That was still, within a couple of weeks. There's a lot to be concerned about. I'm definitely not a lock button, but the upside is certainly there. This is a low floor, high ceiling play. If you want to take a risk on someone like that, I think Norlander could be interesting.
I mean, the talent is there. I mean, I only didn't mention him because he's just been so disappointing over the last few weeks. But yeah, to your point, I mean, the talent is there.
Henry Higgs,
our guy.
Listen, this is, if you do want to play him, we have fun with Higgs. But if you want to play him, this is the week. Right? This is a field where he's not laughable. Right? He can compete with these guys. Right? There's 10 guys that are head and shoulders better than him. Other than that, it's not that big of a difference between anyone in this field, right? If you're a PGA golfer. So he's coming off a week where he played really well on a tough course and a really good competition. He shot a 67. If you're going to carry some of the momentum into this week, yeah, he can compete. Now, I wouldn't take a ticket on him to win the tournament, but in DFS, if he gets top 20, top 15, that can certainly happen. So I think he's certainly a play at 7,100 this week for sure.
Me and S Guy, we are going to ride the Henry Higgs train until he comes on this damn show. I promise you guys that. Every day. Joel, anyone else in the 7K range?
Yeah, so I'm with Sia. I think a lot of the plays that he mentioned, I like a lot too. The last 2 guys that I'll just mention this range that I like are Nick Taylor and Ches Reavie. Nick Taylor has just been competing recently. I like the way he looks in a much weaker field. I think, here's where it could be a good time for him to kind of show out. And I really I like the fact that, he did have that 74 last week. But I think what I'm looking for this week are guys that can avoid the blow-ups. And, the last 2 tournaments, he had a couple of them. But before that, he's been pretty consistent and keeping his scores low, especially on tough courses, which there's been a lot of recently. So I think he's someone that can, a Canadian, might feel comfortable in the wind and can score low this week.
And you said Ches Reavie as well?
And Ches Reavie, yeah. Ches Reavie is one of those guys that we've seen compete, right? He missed the cut last week on a tough course, but he's a competitor. He's a PGA golfer. He's done way better in way better events than this. So would it really surprise you if you saw Ches Reavie in a top 15 against 2? I don't even know half the guys in this field. Not at all.
I like that. That's some great analysis. All right, so that is the 7K range. Of course, as everybody knows, Sia's secret weapon. The only place you can get that, WinDailySports.com/chat. He also gives you some bets in there, and he doesn't give me or my group chat, mostly the group chat, because as much as you guys think I laud about Sia here on the internet live, you should see the things that I say about him privately in our group chat. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So it was a little, but Sia's secret weapon, under 7K, under 5% owned, were 31-4.
30-5.
30-5. We lost again last week. Man, I don't show up last week, and this whole show goes to shit, guys. What are we doing?
So, I put in Discord. I actually put this in, and I don't normally put who the runner-up is, but I was like, listen, I'm having a battle, and I texted our group text, which I honestly shouldn't be doing. I should just because it's all kind of like my picks, but it was between Charlie Hoffman and Matthew Naismith. And something got me scared off Charlie Hoffman. I don't know what it was. So I put in Discord, hey, I'm debating between these 2 guys, but I just want you to know that I debated them, but I'm choosing Matthew Naismith as the secret weapon. And, the wheels came off pretty quickly for him. Charlie Hoffman, on the other hand, was awesome. Just like I sort of expected him to be at the beginning of the week. So it was one of those things. I wish I'd gone the other way with it because Hoffman really was like a super smart play, but at least I think some of the subscribers, at least got on Hoffman because I actually put him in there as a candidate for the secret weapon. So that's kind of the upshot. But as far as my record, 30-5.
30-5. Still pretty incredible. Man, I got to be on the show more often, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that to everybody out there listening. But we're back this week, and that's all that matters. So Sia's going to have a couple plays in the 6K range. But as we said, Wednesday night, not Wednesday morning, not Wednesday at 12, Wednesday night, Sia secret weapon, WinDailySports.com/chat, 7 free days, and our expert Discord chat. Sia, first look, who are some of the guys that you're liking in the 6K range?
Yeah, a few guys. I mean, Ncaa, I think, is a reasonable play. In fact, those first four guys I like quite a bit. So you've got Ncaa, you've got Jim Furyk, Tom Hogue, and Cameron Percy. I mean, we've kind of been on Tom Hogue and Cameron Percy for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them have been secret weapons in the past, and they both performed really, really well. Of those four, I think I like Cam Percy the best. But honestly, Jim Furyk, A, he has a good history here. B, he's such a good course fit. C, I should mention, he's really popular. He's probably going to be believe it or not, he's 50 years old. He's probably going to be the highest owned guy in the 6K range. So, I don't know if that means, hey, you definitely should be off him. Just know that he's going to be probably in that 10%, 9% range when it's all said and done. So that's pretty high for a 6K guy. I think he's a great play in cash. I think he's a reasonable play in GPP, but he really should do well here. So Furyk, Hogue, Cam Percy. I think Ncaa I would put fourth place there. There's not a lot of other guys I like. I think Wesley Bryan is going to catch some ownership because he's typically really good on approach. He really hasn't played much lately, so it's really hard to gauge. But that certainly is his specialty to the extent he has one. Nate Lashley is interesting to me. I don't think I'm going to be on him, but I think he's maybe worthy of a couple lineups if you're doing more than a handful. Bo Hogue, I think Joel was probably first to market on Bo Hogue quite some time ago. Honestly, in this field, Bo Hogue should be making the cut. He's a good enough ball striker, and he's good enough all-around player where if you have to stick somebody in the 6,600 range, I really think Bo Hogue could be kind of your ticket there. He's not going to be as volatile as the next guy I'm going to mention, who I like, who probably has more upside than Bo Hogue, but maybe less cut equity, if you will, and that's Scott Stallings. I really do like Scott Stallings. I think he has plenty of upside. I like his price at 6,500. I think he's kind of underpriced, but he's also volatile. So it's kind of one of those things. You take what you get in the 6,500 range. Maybe one other guy to mention in this range. Roger Sloane. I remember looking. I did a model, but then I was also just looking at people's individual stats as Sunday and Monday were going in this tournament. And Sloane, from a ball striking standpoint, looking at it there, that looks pretty good. But outside of his finishing positions, I mean, he's striking the ball pretty well. I think he has some potential in this particular field. So that's a nice price and a sneaky play because Roger Sloane, I mean, is not going to have any ownership. I mean, like almost nothing. So.
Doesn't look like he's going to. Joel, anybody else from the 6K range? I mean, there's a couple guys. Pat Perez, you talk about Rien, Mr. Hoppenheim. You talk about these guys all the time. Who you liking this week, Joel?
Yeah, so there's one guy we missed at 7,000 flat that I do want to bring up because I think he's a good play this week. And it's Lucas Glover. Lucas Glover's a really good ball striker at 7K flat. He also has a really good course history. He missed the cut last year. Before that, he was tied for fourth. Tied for 17th in 2018, tied for 21st in 2017. So that's 3 years top 22. And he played pretty well last week. He made the cut. He shot a 69. If you move his round one, right, if he even just went even par round one, he probably would have been a top 25. So, Lucas Glover is not playing poorly in a reduced field with a good course history. I think he can be a really interesting play this week. Now,
I love that play too. I'm looking at. I mean, he's made 3 cuts in a row, and he then a miscut before that, and then he made 2 cuts before that. So in this field, you're right, Joel. I completely overlooked him. I think that's a great play.
Yeah. Now, as we kind of dive into the 6K range, I think Jim Furyk is interesting. I agree. I think what you don't like about Furyk is what Sia said about with the ownership is it's a tough pill to swallow to take Jim Furyk at a high ownership, but. At this low, it's not going to be like Berger or anything like that. It'll probably be, maybe in the 10%. So it still won't be like overbearing. And if he gets you another 20 or even in the 15s or something like that, that's going to be really great value at 6,900. I like Percy and Hogue a lot. Another name I'll mention in the same realm is Denny McCarthy. I don't love McCarthy. He's never made the cut here, which is, concerning. I just think, for this field, he's a guy that has competed, has done really well. His form, listen, last week he started the week off with 269s, which is really good. He obviously fell apart over the weekend. But 2 made cuts and a guy who's, I just think he's a better golfer for the price that he'd be given for this tournament. So could be someone to look at. And then as we go down, we're not going to want to get too low here because I think there is there's a few guys in the 7K we like. There's a bunch of 8,000 range we like. I think we want to try and be a little bit more hybrid or balanced if we can and not dive too low. But the last guys that I'm interested in here are going to be Christopher Ventura, whose ball striking numbers aren't good right now, right? So those aren't the numbers that are making me want to play him. He's just someone who, we've seen him get a 67 at the Arnold Palmer, 69 at the Puerto Rico Open, which, that was a field that he really could have competed better. So I'll even mark that as disappointing. But this is a guy who I think, from Norway should be fine in the wind. I think he's a guy that can compete in this type of a field. So especially when we're getting down this low in price, I think he's someone that can get interesting. But other than that, I do like Bo Hogue. He is at this point, he's one of those guys at this rate. I think he will make the cut. I actually think he can compete this week. So I'm with C on that play. And the last one I'm going to give down here, I liked Sloane as well. So Sloane was someone I was looking at before I even mentioned, which is interesting for someone who's going to be very low owned and overlooked. I'll mention Stuart Sink as well as another guy who seems to be these types of tournaments where he shows up, where he's a bit of a better. I think if you guys remember 2 months ago, he won a tournament that was kind of similar to this one. But also, let's not forget, I think Michael, you mentioned Rob Hoppenheim is a guy that we used to mention all the time, right? We used to be like, Rob Hoppenheim is a guy, he's going to be sneaky. The thing I like most about him is not only did he grade well statistically, and if you're looking for him, he's 6,600, Michael. He graded out well statistically here. His recent form, he didn't play that recently, but his last go at it was tied for 7th. But he's gaining strokes with his irons. The stats that you need on this course, he grades out well in. So if you want to take a shot on him, I think this is the week to do it.
I love it. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week again. It's not a very top-heavy field, right? There's it seems like it's Daniel Berger and everybody else. So at least that's the information I've been picking up from you guys, and really, as Joel said, it's just more of Joel's patented. See, we trademarked that, right? Joel's hybrid line. I'm pretty sure that's all in the.
We filed. We got it approved.
Filed. Okay, cool. Yeah. That's the lawyer term I'm looking for. We filed, guys. We filed. But that is the DFS breakdown. Again, make sure if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. If you're listening, thanks. We'll start with that. But then also give us a 5-star review. Make sure to also check out the Better Golf podcast. It's going to be in the show notes. Make that a part of your routine. There's really no way we can't have both of these shows on Tuesday. And then have them kind of come out Monday morning or Wednesday morning for the podcast, but it's 2 hours. It's a lot of golf. You got an hour commute, right? And then an hour commute. One thing I suggest, listen to your podcast at 1.2 times. 1.2 times. You take out 20% of the time. It allows you to get through all the information, right?
It's going to be a little difficult though, because I talk really fast.
No.
So
I talk
I'm already
really
on
fast.
1.2.
I talk really fast.
On 1.2.
Yeah, I listen to this show. I think it's great. So we got nothing to worry about there. So I think we do a great job. You got nothing to worry about. I do
if I may.
Yes. Sia, please.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Listen, here's the thing. One of the reasons you should listen to the Better Golf podcast, besides the obvious things we laid out, is their intro song their little intro thing is awesome. I don't know how they did it, but Michael, you feel like you're kind of in a producer role. You're kind of in everything to win daily. How come we don't have one of those intros? It's so bad. Listen, everybody listening right now, we have quite a few that are listening, I think. At least that's what the number I see on the screen. You got to go to Better Golf Podcast. You'll be hooked in 5 seconds in, because this intro is so cool. So Michael, what's the deal? We've been doing this for a year and a half, and all we get is you saying, "Hey, welcome to Win Daily." What's that?
Yeah, a year and a half. Our year anniversary is in May, by the way. So not quite 18 months yet. We're about 10. Almost happy anniversary though. Sia. Just gonna throw that one out there.
Wait, that's impossible, because we were doing this pre-pandemic, which was March of last year.
Nope.
All right. Well,
it just feels like it. Yeah, it just feels like it.
Well, if you guys need an idea for the theme song, it should be Stone Cold's entrance music.
Happy 316, by the way, everybody. Happy Austin 316. Yeah, that's nice. But no, Nick paid some Australian guys some money, and
was he good in the wind? Is he good in the wind?
Very nice. Touché.
That was good.
Well, don't we have an Australian guy? My sister lives in Australia. Who do I need to contact?
Tip of the cap. Does your sister actually live in Australia?
She does, Melbourne.
What's she doing?
She married a guy named George, who's pretty awesome. They started a family. They've been there like 25 years, I think.
Damn.
She's a PhD psychologist. Got all kinds of books out there, by the way.
Jesus
Just like you,
Christ.
Michael. She's an author.
Hey, I am an author. So me and your sister, you're saying we're practically the same person. Just
Basically.
living on different ends of the world. And this, people, this is what you get with the Win Daily Sports Show. Yeah, maybe we could talk to Nick. And I mean, he won enough money. Joel's won enough money. Like, you guys can kind of scrounge up a couple $100 and have these Australian guys make it.
I'm happy to chip in. I want a cool intro, man.
It's a cool intro. It is a cool intro. But they do a lot with betting. They'll do all the matchups. They'll look at all the different books. They're going to look at everything. We're here for the money shot, baby. We're going to give you the outrights. We're going to give you those first round leaders. Let's get to it. Joel, I feel like I haven't spoken with you in a little while. So talk to me. What are some of your favorite bets for the Honda Classic?
So we just want to do, is there anywhere I'm supposed to, do we want to start with the round one leaders? Do we want to start top 40? Where are we starting here?
Well, we always do round one leaders last. So
okay. All right. So
throw that out there.
So then that makes it easy. So I think the first one, I think my favorite bet this week is going to be in the top 40 range. So I think there's a few guys in the top 40s that I think we can get some really good value on. So I'm going to start with Doug Gim. You're going to get even money on Doug Gim. Did you get in the top 40? I mean, listen, if you look at that from a DK pricing standpoint, that the discrepancy, right? They're pricing him as a top 10 golfer, and they're in the betting market for top 40. There's like almost 15, 20 guys ahead of them. So I think there's definitely some value there. We're looking at Benny Ann at plus 110 in the top 40. So, he's a little bit more risky. So if you might want to go like a top 20 and get a little better odds with him, but he's a good golfer, and as long as he doesn't implode and put 14 balls in the water, I don't really think he can be in the top 40 here this week. So I like getting plus odds on him. Cameron Davis minus 120, also a top 40 bet that I like a lot. And Dylan Fratelli plus 110.
I like that.
That is nice.
Yeah.
Those are just some like nice odds. I don't have to get crazy with that. I'm putting more than $1 on those. Let's just be upfront and honest with everybody. I'm gonna put more than $1 on them.
Wow.
I'm probably not. Sia, what about you? What are some of the outrights that you're liking this week?
Okay, so let me start with kind of a low one, and I, this has been adjusted on certain books because I think people or books are a little bit nervous about the Daniel Berger news. Again, I think he's going to play. I don't want to overreact, but I noticed that the Joaquim Neiman number on some sites went from like 22 to 1 to some like 13 to 1. So I think that's just them, minimizing the risk in case Berger pulls out. Because if he does, I think you could probably say Joaquim Neiman is the deserved favorite over even Sung J M, the way they're striking the ball. You could say both of them are. It doesn't really matter. The point is, I don't like to take short shots here, but because of this like watered down field, I do think that there are some guys that have enough upside to just be like, oh, I'll just take the 20 to 1 shot. So I already got Neiman at 22 to 1. I think if it hasn't moved yet, I think you should probably take it there, because if Berger somehow decides to pull out, then all of a sudden you're getting tremendous value because that'll get cut in half. The next guy I like, we've talked about him a lot, Cameron Tringale, 45 to 1. Again, I got him earlier. I got him at 50 to 1 on a sports book that's kind of like asleep at the wheel right now, because I think they still have the number up, including the Neiman number, among others. I think 45 to 1, 50 to 1. I think Tringale can compete here. I think he can be somewhere in the top 5 or 6 on Sunday down the stretch, and that's enough for me to take a 45 to 1 shot. Dylan Fratelli at 66 to 1. I don't love that one. Again, Fratelli's more of a hunch play. We just heard Joel talk about Fratelli from a top 40 standpoint, so it sounds like we're kind of both on him. And then I'm just going to go like totally off the wall here. Cam Percy at 125 1. I love Cam Percy. There's no flash there, limited upside, but when you have a guy that's limited upside in a tournament like this, you get hot for 2 days in a row, and all of a sudden you're right up there with some of these other guys that have the short odds. And then finally, I'm not even playing this guy in DFS, but he pops up once every, 30 tournaments. His name is Nate Lashley, and he's 175 to 1. And I've seen him go off in certain tournaments, not just for one day, but for an entire tournament. 175 to 1 in a tournament like this, it just seems like that's the right thing to do.
Okay, and now I have to jump back in here because I might be reading this wrong. I hope I'm not reading it wrong, because if I'm not, this is awesome. But the odds that I'm seeing here for Steven Stallings.
Oh, no. Okay, so that's a different Stallings.
Okay.
There's two Stallings in this tournament. Yeah, Steven qualified to get on Monday to get into this tournament, and then there's Scott. So
not the Scott. Okay, because I'm looking right now at over 1,000 to 1 odds. I'm like, for that, sure, let's play that. But it's not Scott. It's a different guy that he's probably like as good as me. So we'll just keep him on.
Steven Stallings.
Well, now you got me wondering what Scott Stallings, who I think I have as a first round. Oh no, I didn't put him down, but I'm going.
But Steven Stallings, put 10 cents on that.
No, don't even.
Why not?
Just throw a dime out your window and call it a day.
That's not as fun though. Just placing that bet gives me the 10 cents worth of happiness.
That's
just
fair.
Clicking bet makes that worth it.
I don't disagree with the entertainment value of clicking bet in that circumstance.
Just clicking bet. Joel, first round leaders. What do you got, buddy?
All right. So first round leaders this week. This is going to be a fun week for first round leaders because it's like, everybody's as good as everybody. My first play is going to be Bo Hogue. Right? My favorite 90 to 1. Those are really long odds for a guy who is not going to be much worse than, after the top 10 guys. So love Bo Hogue, especially for a first round. Another interesting play, a guy that's we haven't mentioned yet on the show, who's in this field a really interesting golfer, is Erik van Rooyen, who's also 90 to 1. I don't love Van Rooyen for a full week. I definitely will be playing him in Showdown, though, different days this week. And for a first round leader, he definitely fits the build of someone that can definitely have one really low day. So those are going to be my two plays at 90 to 1.
90 to 1. See the dollar there, worth the entertainment value of click and bet. See what do we got? First round leaders. Let's do it.
All right, so here we go. So I got to add a couple here. So let's see, how many am I going to give you? I didn't give you Keegan Bradley as an outright. I kind of like him there. But okay, so let's start with a short. First of all, the ones I have picked, we think there might be an edge with the Thursday, with respect to first round leaders, at least with Thursday morning versus Thursday afternoon. That might change. And so most of the guys I've picked here are in that Thursday morning, like really early, so they don't have to worry about maybe wind picking up. So kind of keep that in mind. I've kind of already done that homework for you, but that homework might be awful by tomorrow because things might change. But typically, Thursday morning, you're typically going to be dealing with less wind there. So Joaquim Neiman, 33 to 1. Again, I don't like to take the shorter shot. It's not as fun, but that could happen. Cameron Tringale, 50 to 1. Dylan Fratelli, 70 to 1. Cam Percy, 80 to 1. I'm not in love with that, but whatever. 80 to 1's fun. And then I got to mention Scott Stallings at 90 to 1. He is not one of the guys that's in the morning, though. So it's kind of one of those things like, take that for what it's worth. And then I'll give you two more. One of them is the breaking news. I know this is a little bit more than normal, but, whatever. Keegan Bradley, I mentioned him, right? 50 to 1?
You have now?
Okay, Keegan Bradley, 50 to 1. Okay, so here's the breaking news. Are you guys ready? What time is it?
I got 9:08 on 3:16.
3:16 indeed. So here we go. At 70 to 1, your first round leader, who also has a morning tee time, by the way, so he's in that good category. At least we think it's a good category as of right now. Your first round leader, who put 1,000 balls in the water last week, is none other than Ben On at 70 to 1. He is your first round leader. Let's go.
What's funny? See, I was just getting ready to say, I'm surprised you didn't mention Ben On as one of your. There you go. So yeah, I love it.
I am so in, and it's going to be awesome when he does win that, because then I can take that screenshot and be like, I believed in you the whole time. And everyone's going to have been off of it. Oh, that's going to be incredible. That is going to be incredible. So just to go over some of it, top 40, we have Doug Gim, Benny On. And if he hits that first round leader, I'm pretty confident in that top 40, by the way. So I'll cash that ticket while we're at it.
Don't be that confident. 11,000 balls in the water last week.
Cam Davis, top 40. Dylan Fratelli as well. Outrights, we have Tringale, Percy, and Lashley. You said no to Fratelli for outrights, correct? You said it, and then you kind of didn't say it. So
no, you can keep him there as an outright. Okay. I think I was hedging on Fratelli as a first round leader. Okay, but just play them both. Put a dollar on.
And then for first round leaders, Joel has Bo Hogue and Erik van Rooyen, and Sia has Joaquim Neiman, Mr. Tringale, Fratelli, Percy, Stallings. So I'm not going to tell you which one. Keegan Bradley, and the breaking news is Benny Yan. I love it. I'm so in. That's right. I'm so in. The Honda Classic never stood a chance. You listen to us, so you're going to take down all the DFS tournaments. You're going to go listen to the Better Golf podcast. And you're going to make so much gosh darn money. You don't know what to do with it. You're not going to know what to do with it. WinDailySports.com/chat. Get in that expert Discord chat so Sia can give you his secret weapon. Sia, where can everybody find you on the internet otherwise?
Did we learn that Ivy League schools really just aren't worth that much? Is that what we learned today?
I think so. Like, just get better at DFS and betting, and your parents probably love you more.
Yeah, and you don't have all that money wasted. Also, FYI, just a reminder, definitely talk to Daniel Berger's dad. Have your parents talk to him. But yeah, you can find me at Ncaa Sports on Instagram and on Twitter at Ncaa.
Love it. Joel, where can we find Daniel Berger's dad?
Well, I don't know where you can find him, but you can find me at DraftKings Reflect on Twitter and Instagram. Hopefully, we'll have some clearer answers on wind and everything as the week goes on. If you drop into Discord, we'll drop some more plays as we get closer to the tee off.
Yes, we will. You can find me at Michael Raziel 1. You can find us at Win Daily Sports. One more time, windailysports.com/chat. Make sure to check the show notes. We have our NCAA bracket challenge up. We're partnering with Monkey Knife Fight. We're giving away a signed Magic Johnson jersey.
One of these guys?
The one guy, yeah, not the other guy, but yeah, that guy.
Nice.
Signed Magic Johnson jersey, as well as we're giving away like 1 million different memberships to everybody. I think top 20 or 30 people win prizes. So it's free to enter. You just have to click a button. So I'll put that in the show notes. Again, subscribe to the Better Golf Podcast. What do you got, Sia?
Well, are you giving away my jersey?
I'm not.
I feel like we should have discussed that first.
That would have been pretty cool. But S-Guy's got a great idea. We should give away a signed Henry Higgs golf hat. Maybe that's how we get him on the show. We just write him. Sia and Joel, have both of your kids, have all of your kids write him and see if he will send them a golf hat. And I'm sure, you got 2 or 3 kids? Joel, I don't know, PJ's 18 months? He could probably write at this point. Figure it out. You guys do what you need to do there. See if we can get a couple golf hats from Henry Higgs and then try and get him on the show. What do you guys think?
How about this? Because they don't know how to write. An adorable video asking for a signed hat from Henry Higgs.
Oh my God, that would be incredible.
Am I right?
Yes. No, that's a guaranteed.
Yeah, he has to at that point.
It's basically guaranteed at that point.
Oh my God, that would be incredible.
Honestly, I feel like if we're going to do that, because it will be so adorable, whichever kid does it, I feel like we should maybe shoot a little bit higher than Harry Hicks. Hopefully he's not watching.
You think?
I'm just saying, let's
how much higher can it get?
You think you can shoot higher than Harry Hicks?
Yeah, who the hell are you seeing, Jad?
Shez Reavy, Mark Hubbard.
Please.
Yeah.
It's blasphemous.
Yeah.
But I like that idea, though. Just came up with that live on air. Thank you, S-Guy. Appreciate the idea. S-Guy's going to have his daughter do a video for Henry Higgs. So, yes, tweet it out. Tag us.
Fantastic.
We'll retweet it, and then we'll get Mike North to retweet it. So a lot of people will actually be able to see that. Make sure to tag him and everything. And then, I think that's what we do. From now on, every week we have somebody's kid just ask for a signed golf hat.
It's a great idea.
I love it. Awesome. For Sia, for Joel, everybody in the chat, we appreciate each and every one of you. For Win Daily Sports, my name is Michael Raziel, and we hope you have a very profitable Honda Classic. Bye, everybody.
Sports.